So hello, and thank you for joining me for this presentation on computers A and Z with me, Caitlin B. The title of this presentation wasn't just a fun rhyme. Since we cover a lot of computer topics in the computer fundamentals section of the MTHDS program, what I wanted to do here was fill in some additional information that could be considered fairly introductory on the one end, and then a bit more advanced on the other end, without treading over the same ground from the course entirely. So I'll start with some really basic A concepts that will hopefully just help you understand what you're working with in terms of the computer's parts and programs, and also what we mainly use as MTs. And I'll also cover a key concept that is very basic, but will help get along with technology a lot better. And then we will push on to some Z concepts or Z concepts when it comes to troubleshooting issues and finding information, and then finish with some tips for staying current with technology as it changes. So really basically, a computer is just a machine or a device that performs processes, calculations, and operations based on instructions that are provided by software or hardware programs. So it has the ability to accept data or input, process it, and then produce outputs, much the same way you can input a calculation like 1 + 1 into a calculator, which it will then process and produce the output of 2. If you're watching this presentation, you already know that you can use your computer to browse the web and connect through a video program like Teams. And you likely already know that I created this presentation using a computer. So while you may not be using your computer to do all the things on this list, you would only need the programs that are used to, let's say, edit a video or create an app if you want to do that using the system you already have. Some web designers, programmers, and gamers can have really elaborate and expensive computer setups, but most computers these days can handle anything on this list with the hardware they already have, with some differences in speed. So your main computer hardware parts are going to be anything that has a physical structure. So the keyboard or the mouse are hardware, just the same way as the motherboard and the main box are. So it includes all of the computer's internal parts and also some of the external peripheral parts. And I like to divvy these up in what I like to call the brain, face, and hands, just as a simple way of thinking of these different components, because the main box or the processor that takes in information and execute commands works a lot like our own brain does, with some notable differences, but it is the processor is the main information center of your computer. And then your screen is the main portal through which we interact with the computer, and we often call that the interface. It's where you're going to see your desktop and any way that you're going to look for things. So you can kind of think of it as the face of your computer. And then we have peripheral hardware, like your mouse, your keyboard, your foot pedal and headset would also fall under this. That are basically ways that we navigate, make selections, or input data in the form of words, numbers, or key commands. So I like to call those the hands. And then from there, we also have different software components like internet browsers, your Office suites like Word or the Google Office suite, and any other programs and apps that are stored in the computer's brain and can be accessed through the interface and manipulated with our mouse, keyboard, and other peripherals. So the software is a set of instructions that tells the hardware what to do and how to do it. So everything we do on the computer is going to rely on both the hardware and that software. For example, right now you're viewing this lesson in either a web browser or the Teams app, which is software, through your screen and using your headphones or speakers, peripheral hardware, to hear the audio. If you tend to have trouble working in all digital environments, I found it really helpful to just have some analog supports. Keeping pen and paper nearby your computer can really help for writing down notes as you work, since some of us tend to think a little bit better on paper. And paper references can also be really great supports for your study, so you don't have to search through your hard drive to look for references when you need. However, it can be a really good idea to also create a good system for finding your notes digitally. That way there you can get them when you need them more easily, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Or actually right now, sorry, I'm forgetting my own order. So when it comes to navigating, finding where the things are, a lot of people can kind of get a little bit confused as to where exactly certain things are going to be on their computer. But your main places on the computer are going to be separated by the type of thing you're looking for. So if you're looking for any apps or files, those are usually going to be somewhere on your desktop, or for a lot of apps, you'll have either desktop shortcuts on the desktop itself in your taskbar here, or you can find them by searching in your start menu or the search bar down there. But for the things that you use often, it is a good idea to keep them somewhere accessible. So either on the taskbar, and you can pin these to the taskbar by opening them either by searching them or using a shortcut, and then right-clicking and select pin to taskbar to keep them there. You can move them around so you can keep them in like by the order you tend to use them. Or you can just have desktop shortcuts, which again, it helps to keep these in by grouping them together in some sort of order. And you do want to keep some space. I've seen some very messy desktops, which tend to usually happen because people are afraid of finding something again. And the main key to finding something again is to just have a top, like you have to use your folders effectively. So basically, every single thing I use for work here at CanScribe is in a CanScribe folder. It has subfolders that are divvied up by webinars or practicum work or whatever that may be. And then anything I use more often, I'll kind of pull out so that it's easier to find. But you don't want to get too many of these things cluttering up your desktop, or else it can get you're actually making things hard to find by making them by trying to make them easy to find. So any type of kind of organization hierarchy you can make to keep things more organized is going to be really helpful for that. And then the other main place we're going to be working often is online. So keeping a good set of bookmarks in your bookmarked bar up at the top here. You can even create subfolders. I mean, this one for MT, I have a lot of subfolders in this as well, like different resources that I use often, different links. And having them all in here does mean that I can keep a bit more other things like, you know, like mail services or different things like that in this tab. And you can also save a set of websites that will open on command. So this is actually my set that opens whenever I come in. I have this is related to practicum work. I have a couple tabs for the course content that helps me look up things whenever I'm talking to students. Warp, I have 2 tabs for that always open because I'll sometimes be grading in one, but I like to have another one open in case a student calls in, I have to look up something for their work. And then there are a few here. This is the chat box that you've probably talked to us in. And then these are kind of internal spreadsheets that we use as instructors. So you can set all these up by going in, and a really easy way is to just open them all and click use current pages, or you can add them in one at a time if you like that. But for Chrome, that'll be under your settings and on startup. But most browsers will have some form of this that you can set a bunch of websites up. So you could have, let's say, your course material, Warp, and then maybe a couple dictionaries that you use frequently or websites you like to reference often. So for transcription, the hardware and software we need is actually not too detailed. When it comes to hardware, you can use a laptop or a desktop. So desktop being a computer that has to basically stay on a desk. They're usually a bit cheaper, which is the benefit, but they're less portable. Whereas laptops, it's just, you know, a little fold up. You can take it anywhere with you. Personally, most of my working life, I've used a hybrid sort of setup where I have a laptop and a second screen with a dock for a bunch of peripherals like another keyboard, mouse, foot pedal, all that stuff, so that I have a very comfortable and ergonomic work setup for most of my day. But if I do want to undock and take it to the couch to finish up some things, it's a lot more easy and comfortable to do that. So we have a lot of different options there. When it comes to processors, you don't have to have the newest thing. The Intel Core is on its 8th generation currently, I believe, and that dictates the running speed of your computer. But anything a few generations behind is generally going to be fine. So you don't always have to grab the most current thing, but it's good to stay within a few generations just so that you can run most of the things that we'll need. And then for RAM, 4 gigs is usually the good recommendation. I think I have 8 on this computer, and that's been more than enough. And the less RAM you have, the less programs you want to run at one time. So depending on how much you have, you want to keep that in mind for how much you open at one time. When it comes to your software system, we always recommend Windows over Mac. If you are going to try using a Mac computer in this industry, you will have to know a bit more about computers. You can't go into it without knowing how to run Boot Camp or Parallels and how to basically work within those. So it's not recommended if you're not fairly well versed in computers, or like we just generally don't recommend it at all. But yeah, the reason being that if you run into any trouble, our IT support can't necessarily go in and fix problems on the command level with those. So if you know how to do that, then you might be fine. If you don't know how to work with commands, I would recommend just working with PC. And for that, we recommend Windows 7 or newer. Just because the further back you go with a lot of OS systems, the less likely you are to have bug fixes from major companies. So that's one of the reasons it's a good idea to keep within a few versions of the latest software. And then on top of that, we're going to be using transcription software in this industry. So most companies you work for will have a program that you download to your computer, and you will be opening from there. The course, we do it from the web browser, just as a way of making sure that it's easier on your end, so that if we make updates to the system, you don't have to keep re-downloading that software every single time. And then on top of the transcription software, you're definitely going to need some way to get email in this industry and browse the web. Word processor can help for making notes or saving any of the documents that you get from your company, or while you're in school, any notes. And then a spreadsheet creator is usually recommended just for keeping track of your own hours and reports and earnings and things like that, because we are usually working for ourselves in this industry. So but that's something you can do through Google spreadsheets. You don't have to buy the Office suite to get along with that. And then the main file types we'll be working in are going to be text and audio. And that's mainly going to come through whatever transcription software you're going to use. And then on top of that, you might be working with spreadsheets again for your own finances. And there may be some photos that come up just with different notes you might want to make or documenting issues that you might have with software. It can help to know how to take photos, which right now you can do a quick test of this on your computer. If you see the 4 Windows keys, there are 4 Windows, it's the Windows key on your computer, and the Shift key, you can use both of those together with S. So Shift, Windows, and S to create this little kind of arrowhead that you can click and drag to select an area. And with that, you can save a little snippet that you could then use to control paste into an area. So I'm just going to and then so this is something I'm just mentioning now in case you do want to make some very quick notes as you're going along during this presentation. It's an easy way to do that. So the next kind of concept I want to come up is something that I've caught myself getting into this kind of thinking at different points in my life. It's not very helpful when it comes to technology. And it's this idea that certain devices are basically magic in some way, and us mere mortals cannot understand their inner workings. A lot of devices can fall into this magic box theory, not just computers, but things like cars and microwaves and TVs and radios, calculators. And you can kind of identify if you're getting into magic box theory by gauging how you respond to simple requests like open the side of your computer or go into your computer's settings. If this makes you uncomfortable on a certain level, it's probably because, like I have in the past, you're worried that you're going to do something hurtful to it without understanding why or being able to fix it importantly later, right? So a common belief that you can get to from this line of thinking is that these devices have a will of their own or that they like to behave in certain ways. So, if you've ever said, oh, my computer's acting funny or behaving differently, that's kind of in this line of thinking. And the fact is that computers and cars and TVs and all these things don't behave, they're behaved upon. It's just a machine, and it can only do what we're going to tell it to do. So the key thing to remember is that you have multiple layers, like we talked about the hardware and software earlier, and these are built on each other like bricks in a tower. And each of these layers can provide a service to the layer above and below it, and that makes up our computer. And so there's nothing else going on there. These components will work together all the time, and that relationship means some very important things to the way we work with computers. So first thing, the computer can only do what you tell it to do. So you don't, if something doesn't seem to be working, don't press too many things at once or click too many things at once, because it will help to try and identify the problem, to just slow down a little bit and see what you're doing. Because it's not going to do anything on its own. Another thing, things don't usually just disappear. something caused information to go away, and that something needs to be found and solved. So it's not just disappearing. There might be some protocol. Common one these days is with the cloud. Sometimes the way your cloud is set up can move information around or change where it's stored. So nothing should just disappear unless something very critical is happening. And another big key point is that other people made the computer and can maintain it and can help us fix it. And we can learn these skills ourselves. I myself, you know, I have a little excuse because my mom became a computer programmer, so I could never use the excuse, oh, I'm too old for this, when someone 20 years older than me decided to go ahead and, not use that excuse for herself. But you do have to kind of believe in your ability to learn some of these concepts or enough to get working. And you don't have to know everything about the inner workings of your computer to be able to fix certain things or find certain solutions. A big way to make sure that you're able to fix things yourself is that if you do go to IT for help or a support page, try and pay attention to what they're doing to fix something. And if you can, write down the steps or ask them how to fix it for yourself in the future. Don't just let them do it and forget about it, because this is how you learn to fix things yourself, is by paying attention when other people do it. Another important point, and this I actually added in very last minute because it came up with a student this morning, you're the administrator if it's your computer. I know this is something I've heard a few people say, well, I'm not the administrator, it's asking for the administrator. If it's your computer and you own it, that's you. So if it's asking for a password to confirm you're the administrator, it's going to be the same one you set up to sign in when you come back from a screensaver or turn your computer on. So going on to more troubleshooting basics, since the computer isn't a magic box and there are people who know how to fix it. There are some basic steps that we can use when things aren't working as they should be. So these are general, obviously, but this is kind of the process that you want to think about when something's going wrong. So the first step is to identify the issue. And I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, sometimes your way of finding the answer is to really know what the question is. And so when it comes to what the problem is with your computer, it can be sometimes really obvious, like let's say your sound and warp isn't working. Okay, well, that's the sound and warp. But from there, you can try and ask yourself, well, is that a hardware issue or a software issue? Is it the headset, or is it the program that you're trying to use it in? Or is it both? Is it communicating badly between that? And you want to gather as many details as you possibly can for that. So are the headphones working in other areas of your computer? Is your foot pedal interacting with the cell? You want to really try and eliminate as many variables as you can and break it down for, the most detailed explanation of the problem you can find. Once you have that, you can do a little research. With any of the school programs, we do have an FAQ page that you can look through and see if anyone else has had this issue before, or if there's some common troubles with it. And outside of the school, a lot of websites will have support discussions, and you can Google, let's say Adobe PDF Creator, and then whatever the issue is you're having, not saving file type, stuff like that. And there will often be support discussions of people going through the same issue, but you definitely want to use very specific terms if you are searching. If you have any friends or colleagues that are working with the same kind of systems, you can look to them for some help. And if you're using a specific type of software, sometimes just going to that company's website and seeing if they have a news item. Like, again, with the course, we do try and put a news item if warp is down. We'll try and let you know that we're working on fixing that in the background. And so it might be a bit of time before it's back up and running perfectly. So after doing some research, you might have a bit of a theory from what you've found to test out which factors have been causing that issue, and you can try and eliminate some of the possible causes one at a time and see what other factors could be causing issues for you. An easy way to test some things that might be interacting with your web browser is to open a private window. Because they don't save any browsing history, you won't have your browsing history interfere or cause issues. So IT will often ask you to clear your browsing history cache, and that's a good practice in general to keep things clean. But if you want a really quick way of testing if that's the issue, you can also open up a private window and see if the website works better from there. And then you can kind of use a plan of action. This kind of goes hand in hand with the theory and test. You can make a specific test plan, and as you're testing one thing at a time, make note of what happens when you do each thing. During this, you can check the functionality of every part of your system that could be affecting this problem. So the classic one is, have you turned it off and on again? And it's surprising how many things that will just fix on its own, because sometimes you can have certain drivers that your computer will look for and go find just on startup, or certain command structures that if you do a full reboot, the computer will solve for itself. Some programs sometimes can just get little bugs through operation that can be fixed by just uninstalling and reinstalling the program itself. And with devices, I cannot count the times unplugging and replugging it has helped it work again. And it might just be that something wiggled out of place just enough to make it not work anymore. So then from there, if it's a complex issue, a good idea is to actually take some notes of what you did and how it fixed it. If it was something as simple as plugging in, replugging again, who knows? That's not a bad idea to have at the top of a list of things to check. But if it's a more complex problem, you might run into it again. So it's not a bad idea to take some notes for later. So what part of that troubleshooting process is researching. And when we're researching, this is a big part of both troubleshooting computer issues, but also our job in general as MTs. So Google foo is this term that's come up in the last while as Google has become the search engine monster of the world. And it's defined as the skill in using the Google search engine to access accurate information and results. And being a Google foo master sounds very cool. And but to get your black belt in this, you don't need to know coding or be a computer expert. All you really need is I think, passion for finding information and hunting for knowledge that a lot of MTs just naturally have. And then some Google operators and commands can help a lot from there. So when it comes to your search query, a lot of what uh, there are certain things that do matter and certain things that don't as much. So every single word matters in a search query. If you've ever tried to look for the band The Who and just typed Who, you're not going to get there. So small articles like the and can actually change a search result quite a bit. The order matters quite a bit too. Like green paint is probably going to get you a lot of products, whereas paint green might get you a bunch of painting tutorials for nature settings or color theory or something like that. Capitalization doesn't matter as much most of the time these days, especially on the internet where a lot of domain names don't use capitalization at all. Punctuation usually doesn't matter. You can add a bunch of this stuff in, and unless it's one of the punctuations types that acts as an operator, it's not going to change much if you have exclamation marks in there, for the most part. Obviously, there are exceptions to these, like there are some websites or companies that do use internal punctuation, and that will change. So it can help know those things if you're looking for something specific like that. So there are 9 basic operators in Google searching that can help get you more exact results. Putting quotations around your search terms will get a more exact set. So if you just type in the man who sold the world, you might get this as part of different, like different topics all over, but the specific man who sold the world Nirvana song might be easier to find by putting those quotation marks on either side of it. Number range can help if you're looking for different set, like in my example here, if you're looking for Martin Luther King speeches and you want everything except for the I Have a Dream speech, well, I can look up what year that was in. It was in 63, and then do, let's say, 55 to 62, and that will give me all the speeches before that one happened, if I wanted to see those, for example. You can use exclusion by using a little minus in front of other words. So if I really want to look up Jaguars, the animal, and I don't want the sports team, and I don't want the car, it can really help to, to narrow that down by having those minus operators there. So then similar words, you can use this, it's called a tilde operator, and if you're wondering where it exists, it's right beside the 1 and exclamation mark on your keyboard, and this will help get you more relevant relevant results to the query. So it'll if you're looking for waterfront properties, that tilde will look for similar words to that, but they're still relevant to that query. So you might get different types of places to live on water, not just houses. The inclusion plus is going to help you include keywords and give priority to the words after the operator. So if I was looking for the US national anthem, but I specifically want this Jimi Hendrix performance, adding this little plus to Jimi Hendrix performance will filter in more of those more, instead of just getting a bunch of national US anthem performances, it'll look specifically more for that Woodstock performance. And then the fill in the blank can help. Basically, if I say most popular in Canada, this is saying most popular what in Canada, basically, to the search engine. So it's asking the search engine to fill in was the most popular this in Canada. Multiple words, so gives you more possibilities when you're kind of confused. So if I try taco burger recipes, I'm gonna get anyone who's tried to make this unholy creation, I guess. But if I look for taco or burger recipes, the or will give me different ones from these categories. The site um, will, with the colon, will help get you particular website or domain results. So if I want specifically shorts from Amazon, you can find more specifically that. If this can be useful, kind of on a side note, but just if you saw something fun on TikTok or Reddit or one of those social media sites, Twitter, whatever, you can also use site twitter.com, Quentin Tarantino's thoughts on tacos. And that will help you more specifically zero in on maybe something you saw that was funny from that website. The file type and colon can help give you specific extensions. So if you were looking for population stats and you specifically want to see a spreadsheet, you can search by XLS. And you can use this for all kinds of things like PDFs, doc for like documents, MOV for movies, MP3 or JPEG or whatever file type. If you're looking for something more specific, that can help you find them in that extension. So finally, my final thoughts are going to be a few ways to keep up with technology, which can be kind of daunting, but there are a few different ways to keep up with the trends. So you can join a professional organization to stay on top of emerging tech that directly affects your industry. So some of them will have magazines with current news and tech advances, or you can check to see if they have a local chapter near you that has training. So our work is mainly online, and HDI is the big body that a lot of stuff will fall under. There's also a message board site called MT Stars that can be helpful for finding some specific tech discussions on some of their boards. But that's one way you can kind of see things that are more specific to the MT industry. Industry conferences and tech events can also help. So again, with us, the HDI virtual conference is going to be the more specific to our industry one that will happen. And it's not necessarily technology focused, but that is something that can come up during those. And sometimes you can get some of the keynote speeches afterwards, which can really help if you can't afford the time or money to make out to the full event. You can take some time for daily tech news. And honestly, one of the big parts of this is just looking at what news you currently get. I know myself, I've read a few newspapers in my life and skipped the tech sections. So a really easy fix for that is just don't skip it. Just start reading the tech news from whatever source you already use and enjoy. And if you want to get a more balanced view of tech, you can actually get your news from technology-focused publications or news sites online. So they can be helpful if you find a few reputable sites that you're comfortable with and you like, and kind of stick with them. And you can set up some site keywords to get some key news items daily. That might also save you some time, so you can zero in on more things specific to your interests. Connecting on social media is another great way to stay informed. There's a lot of influencers who are devoted to tech and emerging trends. Um, so you can find some of these on LinkedIn and Facebook, and some of these people will have newsletters, or you can get alerts when they're posting new material. But things like LinkedIn, you can also follow tech company accounts and learn about some of their emerging technology that way. You can also set up some meetings with some coworkers through something like LinkedIn, where you just, every month or something, get together and talk about tech on the job, what headphones people are liking and using, if anyone's found different ways to transcribe that they're really enjoying, or how it's changing the industry. So LinkedIn can be a great way of finding people specific to your industry, especially in ours where we don't work in the same building with other people. Um, just making it a priority is a big part of keeping up with technology. So there are a lot of tech and education companies that have free or fairly low cost classes online, and some of them can even give you industry specific certifications, which can help find jobs or find better jobs later on. You can also take some of these through colleges or universities. So college classes you sometimes have continuing ed, so you don't have to take a full program, but it does give you a chance to learn and even find other people within your field or within a certain area of interest that can help you connect with someone else who shares some of these interests and keep the conversation going, keep current. If you're more of an auditory learner or someone who wants that little bit of distance, podcasts and YouTube are great ways to keep up with general tech and industry advances. Some podcasts even work as virtual coding classes that you can take, and they're free and you can listen to them anywhere through your phone or computer. And then YouTube also has so many content creators out there again, and you can subscribe to them for free and see, what basically use them as your tech news and ways of explaining different content. And just being willing to experiment is a huge thing. So if you want a very low cost way to experiment with new technology, go to Best Buy or the Apple Store or wherever and just play with some things. They're there for you to experiment with. And I mean, the intention is to get you to buy them, but you don't have to. You can just kind of go and explore, see what's new, see what's happening, and yeah, just see what's emerging in the tech field. If you have time for it, having a little passion project to keep some of your tech skills sharp is a good way to experiment with new software. And there are a lot of websites that offer tutorials that can help you with that sort of thing. I'll mention a few later on. But even if you're not a programmer, there are online tutorials that let you kind of see and play with new technology without a huge investment of time. So those are some good ways to branch out outside of your own department or industry and see what technology is being implemented in the world. While this is all happening, even though I'm recommending you go check out all the new fad toys, it's a good idea to keep in mind that some fads will come and go, and some tech is not going to be appropriate for you or your home. I think VR headsets are really, really cool, but I can't imagine one in my living room right now. And that's fine. I can still play with those things and see what they're like without having to invest in bringing it into my house specifically. So whenever you're investigating these things, just keep in mind even like, well, is this cool? Okay, well, is it something that would actually meet my current needs or my future needs? No, not right now. Okay, well then you can always wait. It's only gonna get cheaper if you wait for it. So there's no need to be in at the top forefront of every emerging technology. Um, and you want to spend your time and energy on the products and processes that benefit you and your work. But you can use some of the tech you probably already have, like your phone, or if you have an app. There are apps like Panda or Pocket that you can use to create a news feed that you can read offline, and that can help for following different industry publications like TechCrunch or Recode, or see videos from 2 Minute Papers, The Verge, Wired. There are a few different media outlets that can be really helpful for condensing really complex subjects into digestible formats. And some of these places will also give you new alert features, and you can sign up for emails that you can have just delivered to your Outlook, or sorry, your mail provider, just to keep you ahead of the newest developments, best practices, and whatever opportunities you might want to check out. So a few different websites that you can use. Slashdot is basically a social news website that originally called itself News for Nerds, Stuff That Matters. So it's mainly science, tech, and politics, and that's submitted by site users and editors. Boing Boing is another one that was started as a zine in '88 and later became more of a group blog. And again, they focus on tech, futurism, science fiction, gadgets, intellectual properties, and politics, and is a great news site that you can check out for that. For actually building skills, lynda.com was actually, I think that used to be with a Y. Anyway, it's now LinkedIn Learning, either way. And yeah, it's a great place for finding specific training tutorials, and you can find courses done by industry experts in software, creative, and business skills. And the nice thing with LinkedIn Learning is often they'll give you certificates that you can post right on your LinkedIn profile. So it's also a way of padding your resume a bit. Some sites like Twitter, you can make a list, or Nuzzle is another one where you can sort of aggregate content into one place so that you only have to go one spot to look at some tech news. Waitbutwhy.com was a website that was that covers a lot of different subjects as this sort of long form blog, and it's a way of explaining, technology without needing to know technical knowledge to begin with. So yeah, a lot of different subjects like space travel or climate change or AI, and it explains the whys and hows of these different technologies. And the network world has deep domain experience on modern enterprise data and networking, so storage, servers, virtualization technologies. It's great for technology related news, but it's more geared towards higher level IT professionals. So there's tons of content, and it touches on a lot of technology subjects, but it is a bit more intense. So that brings me to the end of this, and I really appreciate you for joining me for this. I hope this filled in some of the gaps on either end of the computer course, which focuses in a lot on some of the main types of programs that we'll use in the MT industry, but might not might be dive in a little bit too soon or not continue as much as you would like. So I hope this helps on either end of that. And if you have any questions, please put them into the chat box now. For anyone watching this later on our YouTube channel, feel free to email or call in, and if you have any follow-up questions, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. I am not a tech person per se, but I've learned to be okay with that. So hopefully some of these processes that have helped me can help you too to get along with working with technology. So thank you, and yeah, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And yeah, good luck with working with your computers. Great. Thank you, everyone.